You are now listening to All Yours Daddy, a full billionaire romance audiobook. Synopsis. A one-night stand was supposed to be just that, one night. No names, no complications, just reckless, forbidden pleasure. But when Scarlett Hayes walks into her new job as the personal secretary to Roman Wolf, the cold, ruthless billionaire CEO, she's horrified to find out he's the stranger from that unforgettable night. Roman doesn't do relationships. He doesn't do second chances. And he definitely doesn't do complications. Until Scarlett storms into his life, turning his world upside down. Now he wants more. He wants her. But Scarlett is keeping a dangerous secret. One that could destroy everything. Roman is used to getting what he wants. And when he finds out the truth, Scarlett will learn that you don't run from a man like Roman Wolf. 'Cause once he claims you, or his, forever. Chapter 1. The dress was too tight, the heels too high, and the mask felt like a second skin against my face. But none of that mattered. Tonight wasn't about comfort. It was about escape. The glittering ballroom pulsed with wealth and decadence. Chandeliers dripped from the ceiling, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfume and forbidden indulgence. Strangers moved around me, faceless behind their gilded masks, sipping champagne as they exchanged whispered promises in the shadows. I had no business being here. This was a world of the untouchable elite, a world I only glimpsed through the glass. But for one night I wanted to pretend. Pretend I belonged. Pretend I wasn't just Scarlett Hayes, overworked and drowning in reality. And then I felt it. A shift in the air. Pull so strong my skin prickled. Someone was watching me. Not just watching, devouring. I turned, scanning the room, my fingers tightening around the stem of my untouched glass. That's when I saw him. A man standing on the edge of the crowd. His presence like a black hole, swallowing everything in its orbit. A dark suit tailored to lethal perfection. A mask covering half his face, but I could feel his eyes locked on me, stripping me bare without a single touch. A shiver ran down my spine, every nerve in my body going taut. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But I felt him. Freeware. The moment stretched, charged with something dangerous. My heart pounded against my ribs, my breath catching. I should have looked away. I should have walked in the opposite direction. But I didn't. Instead, I lifted my chin, ignoring the voice in my head screaming at me to run. The man smirked. And then he started walking toward me. The crowd parted effortlessly around him, like they sensed his power, his dominance. Every inch of him radiated control. My pulse thundered as he stopped in front of me, close enough that his scent, rich, dark, intoxicating, wrapped around me. "You're staring," he murmured. His voice a low, velvet rasp that made my knees weak. "So are you." His lips curled at the corners, amusement flashing in his sharp gaze. "I always take what I want." A shiver danced down my spine. "And what do you want?" His gloved fingers ghosted along the bare skin of my wrist. His touch light but searing. "You." One word. Just one. And suddenly oxygen was scarce. Everything logical inside me screamed to step back, to end whatever this was before it even started. But then he took my glass from my fingers, setting it on a nearby tray, and my breath hitched. "Run," he said. "Or let me ruin you." A warning. Promise. I didn't run. He took my silence as an answer, fingers sliding over mine as he led me through the crowd. Every step sent another rush of adrenaline through me. This was madness. Complete insanity. And yet I couldn't stop. Door. A hallway. The world around us blurred. Then we were inside a dimly lit room, the heavy door clicking shut behind us. The energy between us crackled, raw and unfiltered. He pulled me flush against him, and I barely had time to gasp before his lips crashed onto mine. Fire. That's what it felt like. Pure scorching fire. I melted into him, hands fisting the fabric of his suit as he took everything. Every breath, every sound, every thought, until there was nothing left but him. His fingers dragged down my spine, igniting a heat so intense I thought I'd burn alive. His mouth traced a path down my throat, his teeth scraping just enough to make me gasp. I felt drunk, dizzy, completely at his mercy. "You taste like sin," he muttered, his breath hot against my skin. I didn't respond. Couldn't. His hands found the zipper of my dress, and when it slid down, when the fabric pooled at my feet, I should have hesitated. But hesitation never came. There was no room for thoughts, for questions, for doubt. Only this. Only him. And when he lifted me, pressing me against the wall, I surrendered. Completely. Sunlight stabbed through the curtains, cutting across the mess of tangled sheets and lingering heat. My head pounded, my body aching in the most sinful way. I stretched, my skin still humming from the night before, and for a moment, I let myself linger in the memory of it, of him. And then I turned. The other side of the bed was empty. The space where he had been was cold. A sharp breath punched from my lungs as my stomach twisted. I sat up, clutching the sheets to my chest, scanning the room. My dress was draped over the chair, my heels neatly placed by the door. Like he had cleaned up every trace of himself. Like he had never been here at all. I swallowed hard, my fingers curling into the sheets. My heart pounded, a slow, dull realization settling in my bones. No note. No number. No name. Just silence. A laugh bubbled up. Dry, humorless. What had I expected? That a man like him would stick around. I dragged a hand through my hair, forcing a breath past my lips. It was just one night. That's all it was ever supposed to be. I had no right to feel the sting of disappointment. Forcing myself to move, I slipped from the bed, my legs shaky as I reached for my dress. My fingers brushed something and I froze. A single black card sat on the chair where my dress had been. No writing. No logo. Just black. My stomach dropped, unease curling inside me. What the hell? I picked it up, my pulse hammering as I turned it over. Nothing. Blank. A cold shiver ran through me, and for the first time the weight of what I had done, what I had let happen, sank in. Who the hell was he? A sharp knock at the door made me jump. "Miss Hayes." A crisp voice filtered through the heavy wood. "Your car is waiting." My throat went dry. My mind scrambled. They knew my name, but I had never given it. I turned the card over in my fingers, my pulse a frantic drumbeat. This wasn't just a one-night stand. I had just made a deal with the devil. Chapter 2. I sat in the back of the sleek black car, staring out the window as the city blurred past. My heart was still racing from the events of last night. Everything about it, everything about him. Roman Wolf. A name I hadn't even known at the time, but now it was branded in my memory like a scar. The driver's voice broke through my thoughts. "We've arrived, Miss Hayes." I nodded, my stomach tightening. This was it. The first day at my new job. A job I had to take, no matter how bad the timing. My family's financial situation had hit rock bottom, and this was my lifeline. I walked through the glass doors of Wolf Enterprises, the building that was everything I wasn't. Untouchable, cold, powerful. The receptionist greeted me with a tight smile and ushered me toward the elevator. My stomach flipped. By the time I stepped off on the top floor, I was already shaking. I was here to work, not to get distracted. But how could I ignore the electric shock that jolted through me at the thought of seeing him again? And then I saw him. Roman Wolf. He was standing by his massive window, gazing out over the city below. His profile sharp, flawless. His black suit tailored to perfection, the kind of suit that whispered authority, power and control. And his mask, that same damned mask, of indifference, of control, hadn't changed. He didn't even need to look at me to command the room. But the moment he turned, his eyes locked onto mine, and my heart stopped. There was no surprise, no shock in his gaze. It was as though he had been expecting me. As though he had planned this moment all along. "Scarlett." His voice was smooth, too smooth, as though he had all the time in the world. He didn't even need to raise his voice to make the room feel smaller, like the walls were closing in. I forced myself not to flinch, to stand tall, even though every part of me wanted to run. "Roman," I replied, my voice betraying me with a slight tremor. He didn't say anything else at first, just studied me, as if calculating something in his head. I wasn't sure whether I should feel like prey or an equal. "Come in," he said finally, motioning toward the massive desk at the far end of the room. The way he spoke, so commanding, so sure, made it feel like I had no choice but to obey. I stepped forward, every part of me on edge. I didn't want to be here. I didn't want him to be the man I had to work for. But here I was. "I trust you had a good night's rest?" he asked casually, the smirk in his eyes betraying his words. It froze, my blood going cold. Did he just... My stomach dropped to my feet. "Excuse me," I said, trying to hold my ground. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving mine. The look in his eyes was predatory, and I felt every muscle in my body tense up. "I trust you're ready for your first day," he said. His voice smooth and full of an underlying promise that made my insides churn. I tried to swallow the lump in my throat, but it wouldn't budge. "Of course." He rose from his chair slowly, his tall frame towering over me, making me feel small in comparison. His presence was overwhelming, suffocating in the most maddening way. I couldn't even look at him without my pulse racing. I felt his gaze on me, not with the casual indifference of a boss and his employee, but with a hunger that sent a shiver down my spine. "I must admit," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper, "I was hoping you'd be just as memorable in the light of day." I stared at him, fighting the rush of heat flooding my body. I knew exactly what he was implying, and I hated myself for it, but I couldn't deny the raw pull, the tension that crackled between us like a live wire. "That was a mistake," I managed, my voice firmer this time. "A mistake I won't repeat." The air in the room shifted. He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that was almost unsettling. "You think I don't know that, Scarlett?" His eyes flashed with something dark, something possessive. "But you'll soon realize that with me, there are no such things as mistakes. Only consequences." His words hung in the air, thick with meaning, and I wanted to scream at him. I wasn't going to be his next conquest. Not now, not ever. But despite my resolve, my body betrayed me, every instinct screaming that I was in over my head. This man didn't follow rules. He created them. "Sit down," he said, breaking the silence. "I'm not here to discuss your mistakes. I'm here to make sure you understand your place." I didn't move at first. I was fighting the impulse to turn and run, to leave and never look back. But the weight of his stare was too much to ignore. Slowly I sat, forcing my hands to stay still in my lap. Roman leaned back in his chair, crossing one leg over the other, watching me closely. His eyes never left me, and I felt like he was peeling back layers, stripping me bare without ever lifting a finger. "You're here to assist me," he continued, his voice taking on a colder edge. "Nothing more. Nothing less." He paused, letting the words sink in. "I don't want distractions. I don't tolerate failure." My heart slammed in my chest, but I nodded. I knew what I had to do. This was my job, my way out of the mess my life had become. I couldn't let him derail me. "I understand," I said, swallowing hard. For a moment he seemed satisfied. Then, without warning, he stood up again, rounding the desk to stand in front of me. His proximity made the air feel suffocating. He was too close, his scent wrapping around me like a shroud. "Good," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Because failure isn't an option. Not for you. Not for me." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His fingers brushed my hair, his touch sending a jolt of heat through me. It was a simple, almost tender gesture, but it felt loaded with something much darker. And then I realized I was trapped. I was in this office, in this world. And Roman Wolf wasn't going to let me go. Not that easily. The door to the office opened suddenly, and I jerked back, catching my breath. "Mr. Wolf, your meeting is ready," his assistant said. The man's eyes flicked between us, clearly noticing the tension. Roman didn't even acknowledge him. His gaze still fixed on me. He didn't need to. He was in control. Always. "Dismissed," he said, his voice hard, clipped. The assistant hesitated but quickly stepped back and closed the door. The moment we were alone again, I felt the oppressive weight of Roman's presence enveloping me once more. He took a step closer, his lips curving into a smile that was anything but reassuring. "I think we're going to enjoy working together, Scarlett," he murmured, his hand lightly grazing my cheek. I should have slapped his hand away. I should have told him off. But instead I froze, lost in the storm of emotions that threatened to swallow me whole. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, he leaned in close, his lips brushing against my ear. "You're mine now." The words hit me like a bolt of lightning. And in that moment I knew this was far from over. I was only just beginning to fall into his game. Chapter 3. I had barely stepped through the door of my apartment when my phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a second, wondering whether it was worth answering, but something pulled me toward it. Maybe it was the unease gnawing at me, or maybe it was the fact that, no matter how much I tried to escape, Roman Wolf kept lurking in the back of my mind. I swiped the screen and brought the phone to my ear. "Hello, Scarlett." His voice was deep, unmistakable. Everything about it made my pulse race, even though I knew the man on the other end was the last person I should be thinking about right now. "Get dressed. I'm sending my car. We have business to discuss." I bit back a groan, my pulse quickening for all the wrong reasons. "Roman, I don't think." "Don't think, Scarlett," he interrupted, the command in his voice making my breath catch. "Just do as I say." The phone line went dead before I could argue further. I stared at the screen, fighting the urge to throw the phone against the wall. What was wrong with me? I couldn't let him control me. Not again. But my thoughts were scattered, and before I could think better of it, I found myself changing into something that was not just professional but something Roman would approve of. Something that might, I feared, somehow fuel his obsession even further. When the car arrived, I tried to steady myself. This wasn't a date. It wasn't even a meeting. It was a damn trap, and I was willingly walking right into it. Roman's office, as usual, was a pristine fortress of cold glass and steel. He was standing behind his desk, one hand resting on the surface, the other adjusting the cuff of his shirt as if he were some kind of ruler expecting a subject to arrive on their knees. "Scarlett." His eyes never left me as I stepped in, the air between us instantly becoming thick with tension. "I told you before, Roman. I'm not doing this." My voice came out sharper than I intended, but I wasn't backing down. Not this time. He smiled, an almost imperceptible shift of his lips that had me questioning everything I'd ever thought I knew about control and dominance. "You think I give a damn about what you want, Scarlett?" His eyes raked over me, a flicker of something darker behind them. I don't take no for an answer." He was the kind of man who got everything he wanted, and I was beginning to think that the fact I hadn't given in yet was starting to make him even more dangerous. Before I could say another word, he slid a folder across the desk toward me. It was black, sleek, and ominous. I eyed it with distrust, but I picked it up anyway, flipping it open. Inside was a contract. I stared at it, disbelief flooding my veins. "You're giving me a contract?" I managed to choke out. "What is this, Roman?" "A contract to work for me, Scarlett. By day you'll assist me in everything I do. By night you'll belong to me." He said the words casually, as if they were simply the terms of a standard employment agreement. But there was nothing casual about it. Nothing professional. This was all about control, about him trying to stake his claim on me. "I'm not signing that," I said, forcing the words out past the lump in my throat. Roman didn't look at me like he had been rejected. He looked at me like I was a challenge. "I think you'll find that you don't have much of a choice," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Either you sign this and we both get what we want, or I'll make sure you regret refusing me." His words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I could feel the weight of them in the pit of my stomach, threatening to drag me under. He leaned forward, closing the space between us, and for a split second I forgot how to breathe. "You see, Scarlett, I'm not a man who likes to wait. And you've been keeping me waiting long enough." His words stung, and I hated how much they made my heart flutter, how much they made me ache to be closer to him, even as I knew it would be my undoing. "I'm not going to be your damn plaything," I snapped, slamming the folder shut. "I can't do this. This is insane." Roman didn't flinch. He didn't even seem bothered by my resistance. Instead, he calmly picked up the folder and slid it back toward me. "You can. You will. But for now, consider this a warning." His eyes flicked to the contract again. "Once you sign, it's over. You'll be mine, completely." There was a hardness to him now, a coldness I had never seen before, and it terrified me. I could feel it deep in my gut, that this wasn't just about a contract about work. This was about something bigger, something darker. I stood up, trembling with anger, fear, and something I couldn't even place. "I don't care what you think you can make me do. I'll never be yours, Roman. Not now, not ever." Roman's lips twisted into a smile, but it wasn't a smile at all. It was a reminder, a warning. "Don't be so sure, Scarlett. This game is far from over. But if you think you can walk away without consequences, you'll be sorely mistaken." The door to his office opened just then, and I spun around, my breath caught in my throat. Roman's assistant, a tall, clean-cut man, stepped inside. "Mr. Wolf, the board meeting is in 10 minutes. Roman didn't respond immediately, his gaze still fixed on me. "We'll continue this later," he said, his voice an edge of finality. "Get this contract to her. She'll sign it. And I don't want any excuses." As he turned to leave, I could barely keep myself from screaming. My pulse was pounding in my ears, my hands were trembling. I was caught. This wasn't just about work anymore. Roman had crossed a line, and somehow I was standing right at the edge of it, unable to turn away. I wanted to leave, to walk out of that office and never look back. But then Roman's voice, calm and menacing, reached me again, stopping me dead in my tracks. "One more thing, Scarlett," he said, his tone like a blade. "I'll know if you try to run. And trust me, the consequences will be far worse than what you can imagine." The door slammed shut behind him, and for the first time I understood. Roman Wolf wasn't just a man. He was a force, a dangerous, relentless force that wouldn't let me go. And I was trapped. Chapter 4. The tension in Roman's office was suffocating. I could feel it in the air, thick and charged, almost as if the space around us had become alive with a force of its own. We were inches apart. Too close, too much. His gaze was intense, a heat I could feel in my bones, and I hated how much it affected me. I wanted to look away, to pull back, but I couldn't. My body refused to obey me. "Are you going to sign it?" His voice was low, almost dangerous, but there was a raw edge to it that hinted at something else. Something more primal. I'm not signing anything, I snapped, my voice more forceful than I intended. I hated the way my hands trembled as I clenched them into fists at my sides, the way his presence filled every inch of the room, making me feel like there was no escape. He stepped closer, and for a split second I thought my heart might stop. His breath was warm against my cheek, his scent overpowering everything else. A dangerous combination of power, money, and control. But I wasn't about to give him that. I wasn't about to give in. "I think you will," he said, voice a low growl as his fingers brushed against my wrist. I flinched but didn't pull away, not entirely. His eyes flickered with amusement, like he was savoring the control he had over me. It made my skin crawl, yet I couldn't tear myself away from him. "Don't," I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was warning him against. My mind was a mess, all of my thoughts colliding with each other. I couldn't think straight, not with him so close. Not with the way his presence filled every corner of my mind. "I'll make you sign it," he muttered, leaning in closer until I could feel the heat radiating off him, his lips brushing against my ear. "You think you have the power here, Scarlet, but you don't. You never have." My stomach twisted in a way I didn't want to acknowledge, but I pushed it down, fighting back. "I'm not your toy, Roman. I won't play your game." His smirk deepened, a slow, deliberate curve of his lips that made something coil in my chest. "We both know that's not true," he said softly, his voice like velvet. "You might be resisting now, but deep down you want it. You want me. You've wanted this from the start." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt my pulse throb in my ears. He was too close. His lips were almost touching my skin, and every inch of me screamed for him to pull back. But at the same time I couldn't make myself walk away. He had me in a vice grip, and no matter how much I tried to fight it, I was helpless. "No," I managed to choke out, forcing myself to breathe. "No, I don't want this." "You lie so well, Scarlet," he said, a note of amusement threading through his voice. "But I'm not buying it." The next thing I knew, his lips were on mine, urgent and commanding, and I couldn't stop myself from responding. I hated that I couldn't stop. Every part of me screamed to break free, but there was another part that didn't want to. It wanted to give in, to surrender to whatever Roman was offering, even though I knew it would ruin me. I pulled back, gasping for air, trying to steady myself. "This isn't right," I said, my voice shaky as I stepped away from him, away from the heat and the chaos he stirred inside me. His eyes were dark, too dark, with a hint of something dangerous. "You think I care about what's right, Scarlet?" he asked, voice thick with desire. "I care about what I want. And right now I want you." My heart pounded in my chest, and I stepped back again, my legs feeling like they might give out beneath me. "No," I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of fear and something else I couldn't quite place. But before I could say another word, he was moving toward me again. His steps deliberate, steady, and his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that left me breathless. My body was betraying me, responding to him even though I was screaming inside, fighting it every step of the way. Then, just as he reached me, just as his fingers brushed against the collar of my blouse, something changed. Something inside me snapped. Couldn't do it. I couldn't go any further. I pushed him away, harder than I meant to. He stumbled back slightly, surprise flashing in his eyes before it was replaced with something darker, something colder. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he asked, his voice dropping into a dangerous tone. "I can't," I gasped, my breath ragged as I backed away. "This isn't right. I'm not. This isn't the kind of relationship I want with you, Roman." He stood there for a moment silent, and for a second I thought he might back off. But then he stepped forward again, slowly, deliberately. "You think you can walk away, Scarlet? You think I'll just let you go? I don't want to be here. I don't want this. The words came out harsher than I intended, but they were the truth. Roman's eyes flashed with something cold, something dark, and it made my stomach twist with dread. You think you can just leave me, Scarlett? You think I'll let you walk out of here after everything? No, this is just getting started. You don't get to run from me. I took another step back, my mind racing. I have to go. Before I could make a move for the door, Roman's voice cut through the air, low and menacing. I said no. The words hit me like a slap. Before I could react, his hand was on my arm, pulling me back toward him. My heart thudded in my chest, panic rising as I tried to free myself from his grasp. Roman, stop. I struggled, but he didn't release me. You're mine now, Scarlett, he growled, his grip tightening on my arm. You can't escape. I won't let you. His words echoed in my mind, and panic surged through me. I knew he was right, he had me trapped. But then something happened. Something I hadn't expected. A sharp pain surged in my abdomen. I gasped, my body going rigid as the room seemed to spin around me. My hand flew to my stomach instinctively, my breath catching in my throat. Roman's eyes flicked down to my hand, and then back up to my face, his expression darkening with suspicion. What's wrong? He asked, his voice tight, almost too calm. My voice faltered. I don't feel well. He didn't seem to care. His grip on me tightened, and for a moment I thought I might faint. You'll feel better once you realize you can't escape me, Scarlett. You're mine. I pulled back again, my mind a whirl of confusion and panic. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to be pregnant. This secret, the one I had worked so hard to keep buried, was suddenly crashing to the surface. Roman leaned in closer, his gaze dark and calculating, and for the first time I saw it. He knew something was wrong. His hand grazed my stomach again, and that's when I couldn't hide it anymore. I'm pregnant, I whispered, the words coming out in a breathless rush. The room seemed to freeze. Roman's eyes went wide, and for a moment he said nothing. But the look on his face, surprise, followed by something else I couldn't place, left me frozen in place. He stepped back, his grip on me loosening just slightly, but the storm in his eyes was far from over. You're what? He asked, his voice low, dark, and full of something that wasn't quite anger. It was worse. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But I was trapped in his gaze, and the secret was out. Roman Wolf wasn't going to let me walk away now. And neither was I. Chapter 5. The sound of the elevator doors opening on the floor where Roman's office stood sent a jolt of panic through my chest. I had just been getting used to the uneasy balance between us, but now, standing at the threshold of his office, I felt like I was about to lose my footing entirely. Roman had been colder than usual the past few days, his presence looming over me in a way that made my skin prickle, though I had no idea what was causing the change. I should have been suspicious, should have asked, but every time I opened my mouth to confront him, something held me back. I didn't want to know. Not really. But today was different. The moment I stepped into the foyer, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in months. Soft, smooth, like a poison-coated whisper. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and my heart skipped a beat. I froze, feeling my body tense. Roman, darling, it's been too long, the voice said, with a sickly sweet edge I couldn't ignore. Evelyn. I turned slowly, my heart hammering in my chest, my eyes falling on the woman who had once been a part of Roman's life, a part one couldn't help but envy. Evelyn Carter. She stood near the large windows of the office, her slender form draped in an expensive white dress, her platinum blonde hair perfectly styled as always. She hadn't changed a bit. Roman was standing next to her, looking as impassive as ever, his sharp eyes narrowing when they met mine. There was no warmth in them, no apology, just that same cool, calculating gaze that made me question everything I thought I knew. He didn't even blink as I stood there, staring at the woman who had left a mark on him that I could never erase. Evelyn's smile curled up at the corners as she looked me over, her gaze cold and assessing. "Oh, Scarlett dear," she cooed, walking toward me with that same graceful stride. "I almost didn't recognize you. You've grown. Quite comfortable in your new role, haven't you?" I swallowed hard, my stomach sinking. The way she said comfortable made it sound like I had somehow done something wrong. She was right, though. I had gotten comfortable in the chaos of my new life. Too comfortable. But I wasn't about to let her get under my skin. Not this time. "I didn't know you were back in town," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled again, a shark's smile, and tilted her head, her eyes glinting with a dark amusement. "I wasn't planning on staying. But I've heard some interesting things about you, Scarlett. About you and Roman." Her eyes flicked toward him as she said his name, a flicker of something in her expression. Possessiveness, maybe? I couldn't tell. Roman didn't speak. He didn't look at me. And that, in itself, was a sharp slap to my face. "I'm sure you've heard plenty," I shot back, crossing my arms defensively. Her smile widened. "Oh, I'm just getting started." She turned her attention fully to me now, her voice low but filled with purpose. "You're a pretty thing, Scarlett. I'll give you that. But don't you think you're just a little bit of a rebound?" A cold shiver ran through my veins, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. Rebound. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. She was taunting me, playing her game, but there was something about her words that hit too close to home. Something about her tone made it sound like she knew more than I did. More than I wanted to know. Roman finally spoke, his voice as cold as ever. "Enough, Evelyn." Evelyn didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned in, her voice dropping an octave as she spoke directly to me. Her words laced with venom. "You think this is real, don't you? This little relationship of yours? Well, let me tell you something. Roman never cared about you. Not the way you think. He's using you, Scarlett. He's using you to get back at me." I felt the floor shift beneath me. The ground seemed to tilt. My pulse quickened, and a pit formed in my stomach. What the hell was she talking about? Roman's jaw tightened, his fists clenching, but he didn't stop her. I glanced at him, seeking some sort of confirmation, some hint that what she was saying wasn't true. But he was unreadable. His expression frozen in place as he locked eyes with me. "Roman, is that true?" I finally managed, the words escaping my lips before I could stop them. "Is this all some sort of game to you? Am I just part of some sick revenge plot?" I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe it. But Evelyn's words echoed in my head, their weight settling over me like a thick cloud. Roman's gaze shifted back to Evelyn, his lips curling into something that might have been a smile, but it wasn't kind. It was a smile that held no warmth. "You've said your piece, Evelyn. Now leave. We're done here." But Evelyn didn't back down. She stepped even closer to me, her eyes burning with a mixture of hatred and satisfaction. "Oh, Roman's been good to me, Scarlett," she purred, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "He's a man of many talents. But revenge, that's his favorite game of all." I could feel the walls closing in on me. Every part of me screamed for answers, but Roman just stood there, silent as ever. His eyes locked on Evelyn, his expression unreadable. I couldn't take it anymore. "No," I whispered, my voice shaking. "You're lying. You have to be. Do you really think he'd have anything to do with you if he didn't want to hurt me?" Evelyn's eyes darkened. "You think this is love? Think again, sweetheart. It's all just a game. A game he always wins." I took a step back, my breath coming faster now. Every inch of me felt like it was unraveling. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mind was spinning, and all I could hear was her voice, echoing in my head. "It's all just a game." I wanted to scream, to run, But I didn't move. I just stood there, my heart shattering piece by piece, each word from Evelyn another blow. Roman's voice was colder than ice. "You don't know what you're talking about, Evelyn." But his words didn't make me feel any better. They didn't erase the doubt that had settled in my chest, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, Evelyn was right. "Don't I?" Evelyn asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're still playing the part of the caring boss, aren't you? Still pretending that you're not using her to get back at me, to hurt me. Tell her the truth, Roman. Tell her how you've been waiting for the right time to make her fall for you, just so you can tear her apart when you're done." I felt my stomach turn. Roman didn't say anything. He didn't stop her. He didn't defend me. The silence between us felt suffocating, like 100 tons of weight pressing down on my chest. The seconds stretched into eternity. Finally, Roman took a step forward, his gaze never leaving mine. His voice was barely a whisper, but I heard every word. "Leave us, Evelyn," he said, the command in his voice unmistakable. "This conversation is over." Evelyn glared at him, her lips curling into a sneer, but she didn't push him further. She turned on her heel and walked toward the door, her heels clicking against the polished floors. But just before she exited, she looked back at me with a final, venomous smile. "You'll regret this, Scarlett. He'll break you in ways you can't even imagine. You'll see. You're nothing but a pawn in his game." And then she was gone. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. Roman remained still, his expression unreadable as he looked down at me. The silence between us felt unbearable, like everything I just heard was a cruel joke. Was it all true? Roman took a step toward me and I instinctively took a step back. But his hand shot out, catching my wrist before I could move too far. "Scarlett," he said softly, but the softness in his voice only made me more afraid. "You don't believe her, do you?" I looked at him, my chest tightening with every breath. His grip on my wrist tightened too, but I didn't pull away this time. "I don't know what to believe anymore," I whispered, my voice barely audible. And just like that, the world I had built around me began to collapse. Chapter 6. I had spent the last few days, since the confrontation with Evelyn, spiraling in confusion. Every inch of my mind was consumed by the same thoughts: doubt, betrayal, anger. It was like a constant whirlwind in my chest, a storm of emotions I couldn't control. I had to know the truth. I had to know if Evelyn's words were lies or if I had been nothing but a pawn in Roman's game. The company's archives were vast, a maze of documents and hidden truths that most people would never think to look for. I had no choice but to dive in. It was the only way to figure out why he would do this to me. Roman had always been a man of control. I had seen that in the way he handled everything: his work, his relationships, his emotions. But this was different. This was personal. I was personal. I started with his family history. It was something I knew little about, other than the fact that his father had built an empire and that Roman had taken the reins after his death. There were rumors about Roman's past, whispers that he was not a man to be crossed, that he had done unspeakable things to climb to the top. But none of that seemed to matter anymore. All I cared about was why he'd done this to me. It took hours of digging through files, tracing back the corporate records, scanning emails and private memos, until I finally found it. The meeting. The night we'd met. It wasn't accidental. My hands trembled as I read through the details in a private email from Roman's assistant, dated several days before the masquerade. It was a simple instruction: ensure that Scarlett Hayes is invited to the party. Roman wants her there. The blood drained from my face. I reread it twice, then a third time, just to make sure I hadn't misinterpreted it. But it was clear. He had known who I was. He had planned this. The whole thing had been orchestrated. I hadn't been some random woman at a party. I had been a target. I stood up so quickly, my chair scraping harshly against the floor, that it startled the secretary in the outer office. I barely even registered her presence as I stormed out, my thoughts a blur of rage and betrayal. Roman had lied to me. He had manipulated me. I walked into the elevator, the sound of the doors closing behind me echoing in the stillness. The world outside felt distant, irrelevant. Everything I had believed about Roman, about us, shattered in an instant. He wasn't the man I had fallen for. He was the man who had used me. The elevator stopped at the top floor, and I stepped out into the penthouse lobby, my heart pounding, a sick feeling crawling up my throat. His office. The one place I had once considered a sanctuary in the chaos of everything else. Now it felt like a prison. Roman was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to me as he looked out over the city. I didn't even know if he had seen me approach. It didn't matter. I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. I opened my mouth, the words tasting like acid on my tongue. "You lied to me." Roman turned slowly, his eyes locking onto mine, dark and unreadable. The smirk that had once made my heart race was gone, replaced by a coldness I hadn't seen before. "You should be careful with accusations, Scarlett." I took a step toward him, my fists clenched at my sides. "You knew who I was before that night. You knew exactly who I was, and you still used me." His eyes flickered, but only for a moment. Then, just as quickly, his mask of indifference returned. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No." My voice cracked, the hurt in it impossible to disguise. "Roman, I've seen the emails. I know you planned this. You manipulated me into thinking that our meeting was some sort of random accident. You used me, and now I'm just part of some sick game for you, aren't I?" Roman's gaze darkened, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something raw in his eyes. But it was gone just as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by an emotionless mask. "I don't need to explain myself to you, Scarlett." "No," I whispered, my chest tightening with the weight of everything I had just uncovered. "You don't. 'Cause I already know. You never wanted me. Not like I thought you did. I was just a pawn in your game." His lips tightened, but he didn't speak. He took a step forward, closing the distance between us with a predatory grace that made my pulse spike. My body screamed to step back, but I didn't move. "You think you know everything, don't you?" Roman's voice was lower now, almost dangerous. His presence enveloped me like a storm just waiting to break. "You think I manipulated you. But the truth is, Scarlett, I've never manipulated you. Not like you think." I could barely breathe, my heart hammering in my chest as I stared at him, searching his face for something that would make sense of all of this. I was desperate for answers. "Then what, Roman? What was it? Why did you do it?" He took another step, his eyes locking onto mine, his breath coming a little faster now. "Because I wanted you, Scarlett. I wanted you more than I've ever wanted anything in my life. I've never let anything I want slip through my fingers. Not once. And you," he paused, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You, Scarlett, are the only thing I've ever been willing to fight for." His words struck me like a lightning bolt, but they did nothing to ease the chaos inside me. If anything, they only made everything worse. You wanted me?" I asked, incredulity and anger filling my voice. "Then why didn't you tell me? Why make it some sick game?" Roman's jaw clenched, and for a moment, his eyes softened. But then the hardness returned, like a wall closing in. "You wouldn't have believed me. I had to make you trust me. I had to make you want me first." I shook my head, my body trembling. "I trusted you. I did want you. But you lied to me, Roman. And I can't forgive that. I won't forgive that." His face hardened again, his eyes narrowing. "You don't get to walk away from me, Scarlett. You think you can just leave after everything we've been through? After everything I've done for you? I don't care what you've done for me, I spat, stepping back. You've ruined me. I can't stand the thought of being anywhere near you. Roman's face contorted in a mix of frustration and something darker. He reached out, grabbing my wrist with a force I hadn't expected. My heart stopped as his grip tightened, pulling me toward him. You're not leaving me, he growled, his voice rough with anger. I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not ever. I wrenched my wrist out of his grip, my eyes wild with panic. You don't get to control me anymore. You never did. You never will. Roman didn't say a word. Instead, his eyes darkened further, his jaw working as he took a step closer, his breath coming in heavy bursts. You don't understand, Scarlett. You're the only thing in my life that matters now. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I needed to get away from him. I turned, heading for the door, but Roman was faster. He was always faster. Before I could reach the exit, he slammed the door shut, locking it with a finality that made my stomach drop. What are you doing? I gasped, my heart racing as I spun around to face him. Roman's face was a mask of fury. You're not leaving, Scarlett. Not now. Not ever. And then, he did something I never expected. He kissed me. Chapter 7. I wasn't sure what I was expecting when I left Roman's office, but it certainly wasn't to be followed by the shadow of his brother. Damon Wolfe. Roman's half-brother. The man who'd apparently been out of the picture for years, only to reappear now, at the most inopportune moment. It was a cruel twist of fate, really. I was already caught in the web of Roman's lies, manipulation, and deceit, and now I was staring into the eyes of someone just as dangerous, if not more so. I didn't trust him. Couldn't. But when he stepped out from the darkness of the hallway as I made my way down to the elevator, I couldn't help but freeze. Scarlett, he said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. I've been waiting for you. I took a step back, my heart racing. What do you want, Damon? He tilted his head, studying me with an unnerving gaze. Roman's not exactly the man you think he is he? I clenched my fists. I wasn't going to let him manipulate me. Not after everything I'd learned about Roman. I'm not interested in whatever game you're playing. I'm done with all of you. Damon's lips curled into a smirk. Oh, I think you are interested. You should be. I'm the only one who can protect you from Roman. His words sent a chill down my spine, but I stood my ground. You're lying. Why would you protect me? Because I have my reasons, he said, stepping closer, his voice dropping low. Roman's not the man you think he is. He's dangerous. And I'm the only one who can keep you safe. His words sounded hollow, like a promise that had no real meaning behind it. I didn't trust him, not for a second. But I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in the pit of my stomach. What if Roman was hiding something even worse than I realized? What if Damon knew something I didn't? I didn't have the answers, but I had to know. No thanks, I said, my voice shaking but resolute. I don't need your help. And I definitely don't need your protection. Damon's eyes flashed, but he didn't back down. Instead, he took a step closer. You think Roman's the one who's dangerous? He's not. Him. And I'll make sure you understand that. I swallowed hard, taking another step back. The tension between us thickened like a storm about to break. But then, before I could react, he took a step forward, lowering his voice into a dangerous whisper. You think you're in control of this situation, Scarlett, but you're not. You're just a pawn in a game you don't even understand. Roman's been playing with you all along, and now it's my turn. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't want to show him how much his words rattled me. I don't care about your game. I'm done. Just leave me alone. Damon reached out and grabbed my wrist, his grip cold and firm. You don't get to walk away. Not now. Not after everything Roman's done. I jerked my arm away, but his hand tightened. Let go of me. His eyes hardened, his jaw clenching. You're not in control here, Scarlett. And you never were. You will need me, and I'll make sure of it. I took a deep breath, fighting the rising panic in my chest. Had to stay calm. Had to think. Damon was dangerous, but I couldn't let him see how much his words were affecting me. What do you want from me? I asked, voice trembling. Damon released my wrist and took a step back, studying me with a cold, calculating gaze. I want you to understand that you don't have a choice. Roman won't protect you. He's too busy playing his own game to care about anyone else. But I can offer you something he never will: power. Protection. A way out of all of this. My mind raced, the pieces of the puzzle slowly falling into place. This was a game for Damon. He wasn't interested in saving me. He was interested in using me to hurt Roman. I was just another weapon in his arsenal. You want to use me, I said, the realization dawning. Just like Roman did. You think I'm going to fall for this? Damon's smile widened. Oh, I'm not asking you to fall for anything, Scarlett. I'm giving you a choice. You can decide who you want to be with. The question is, do you want to continue to let Roman control you? Or do you want to have some power of your own? I felt sick to my stomach. This was worse than I thought. Both of them, Roman and Damon, had been playing their own games, and I was stuck in the middle. There was no escaping this mess. No matter which way I turned, I couldn't get away from their web of lies and manipulation. I won't be your pawn, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. And I'm not interested in your games. Damon's expression hardened. You'll change your mind, Scarlett. I guarantee it. And with that, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing there in the hallway, alone and confused. I didn't know what to think anymore. I was caught between two men, two brothers, who both wanted to control me. But who could I trust? Damon had just offered me a way out, but at what cost? And why had he shown up now, just when I was already teetering on the edge? I couldn't escape this. I couldn't escape them. The next day, as I sat in my apartment, trying to process everything that had happened, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, and my stomach dropped when I saw the name, Roman Wolf. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I even wanted to hear what he had to say. But then, against my better judgment, I answered. Scarlett. Roman's voice came through the phone, low and urgent. We need to talk. I swallowed hard. I'm done, Roman. I'm done with all of it. I don't think you understand, Scarlett, he said, his tone changing. Damon isn't who he says he is. He's dangerous. Don't trust him. You have to come back. Please. The desperation in his voice caught me off guard. For a moment I felt a flicker of something deep inside me, make me question everything I had just learned. Was Damon lying? Was he playing me just like Roman had? You don't get to control me anymore, I said, my voice shaking with emotion. I'm done with you. Done with all of it. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and then Roman spoke again, his voice low and strained. You don't know what you're dealing with, Scarlett. Damon has been waiting for this. Waiting for the moment when he could destroy me. And now he's using you to do it. He's going to hurt you if you don't stop this. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. What was I supposed to believe? What was the truth? And just as I opened my mouth to respond, the line went dead. The phone slipped from my hand, and the weight of his words settled heavily in my chest. What had I gotten myself into? I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to trust. But one thing was clear. No matter what happened next, I was no longer just a pawn in someone's game. I was a player now. Chapter 8. The air felt suffocating. Roman's words from the phone call kept swirling in my mind like a toxic storm. Damon has been waiting for this. waiting for the moment when he could destroy me. And now, he's using you to do it. I couldn't escape them. Every time I tried to shut it out, they came back louder. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, my phone lying face down beside me, as I replayed every moment that led me here. Every touch, every kiss, every word exchanged. What had I gotten myself into? What had I really gotten into? The man I thought I knew, the one who had come into my life with such intensity, passion, and promises, was nothing like I imagined. And now I wasn't sure if the love we had shared was real, or if it was just part of his revenge plot against me, against my family. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been lied to from the start. What had Roman really wanted from me? Was it all just a game to him? The questions burned, but I didn't have answers. Not yet. But I had to know the truth, even if it shattered everything. I couldn't trust anyone, not even Roman. But the one thing I could do was confront him. I had to face him and demand the truth. No more games, no more secrets. As I stood up, the phone buzzed again and I looked down at the screen. Roman's name was staring back at me, bold and unapologetic. I was tempted to ignore it, but my finger betrayed me as it swiped across the screen, accepting the call. "Scarlett," Roman's voice came through the phone. His tone surprisingly soft. "I need to see you." I gripped the phone harder. "What's going on, Roman? Why don't you just tell me the truth for once?" There was a long pause. For a moment, I wondered if he would lie to me again. But then his voice dropped lower, more guarded. "There are things you don't understand, things I've never told you. I never wanted you to be caught in this." "I don't understand anything anymore," I snapped. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ever tell me about your past with my family?" Another pause. My heart thudded harder in my chest. "What do you mean?" His voice didn't betray anything, but there was an edge there, a crack in the facade. "You knew who I was long before that night," I said, the words almost tasting bitter as they left my mouth. "You knew about my family's past. The betrayal. The scandal." Roman exhaled sharply. "I never meant for you to find out this way." I wanted to scream, but I swallowed the fury that threatened to spill out. "Then how did you expect me to find out, Roman? When you were lying to me? When you were using me?" "I never used you," he said, his voice suddenly pleading. "Not the way you think. I was never going to fall in love with you. But somewhere along the way I did. I couldn't stop it. I wasn't sure what to feel." His confession hit me like a punch to the gut. Did he mean it? Was it real? Or was this all part of his plan, a way to keep me in his control? "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" I whispered. "Why didn't you tell me why you were really after me?" "I didn't expect it to happen like this," he said quietly. "I never planned on falling for you. But I did. And now—" His voice trailed off, as though he didn't have the words for what he was feeling. Now what? Was I supposed to feel sympathy for him? Was I supposed to believe that everything he had done was in the name of love? "You never told me about the past," I said, each word heavy with accusation. "About my father. About the betrayal." Roman sighed, a long, pained sound that made my heart ache in spite of myself. "It wasn't just your father. It was my father too. He betrayed mine. Your family, your father, was responsible for destroying everything my father worked for." I blinked, stunned. "What? My father?" "Yes," Roman continued, his voice tight with anger. "Your father's company bought out my father's. Destroyed it. Left him with nothing." I swallowed. The truth hit me like a cold slap to the face. I had heard rumors about my father's business dealings, but I had never known the extent of the damage he'd caused. I never knew that my family's success had come at such a high price. "My father had nothing left after your family finished with him," Roman said, his voice dangerously low. "And my father vowed revenge. But he died before he could get it. So I made it my mission. I wanted revenge on your family. But then I met you, and it all changed. I could barely process his words, my mind reeling from the revelation. My family's betrayal had destroyed Roman's father, and Roman had spent years planning revenge. And when he finally found me, he thought he had found the perfect way to hurt me, by using me as a pawn in his twisted game of revenge. But then he had fallen for me. I never planned on this, Roman said again, his voice raw now. I never planned on you, Scarlett. You were supposed to be a way to hurt your father. But it wasn't supposed to be like this. I shook my head, trying to make sense of the mess in my mind. So, it was never about me. It was always about them, about your father, about my father, about the past. And you used me to get to my family. Is that what you're saying? Yes, Roman admitted, his voice thick with regret. But that's not the whole truth. I didn't expect to feel what I do for you. I didn't expect to fall in love with you. And I hate myself for it. I didn't know how to respond to that. His words felt like a betrayal, like a knife twisting in my chest. How could I ever believe that any of this was real? How could I trust him after everything? I wanted to run. I wanted to leave. But something in me, something deep inside, kept me rooted to the spot. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Roman's silence was deafening, stretching between us like a chasm that neither of us could cross. I couldn't, he finally said. I couldn't let you know. I was afraid of what it would mean for us. The word hung in the air like an unspoken promise, a bitter joke. I had no idea who we were anymore. Was there even an us? Or had this all been one big lie? Before I could respond, the phone clicked. Someone else was on the line. I heard a strange, unfamiliar voice. A woman's voice, cold and confident. Roman, the woman said, her tone smooth and clipped. You need to come here. It's urgent. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Something about her voice sounded too familiar, too controlling. My stomach twisted as the words sunk in. Who is that? I asked, panic rising in my chest. Roman's voice was hurried, terse. I have to go, Scarlett. I'll explain everything later. And with that, the call ended, leaving me in the silence of my apartment, the weight of his confession still heavy in my chest. Who was that woman? Chapter 9. I felt the panic rising in my chest as the door slammed behind me. The cold steel of the handcuffs bit into my wrists, the sharp metallic taste of fear creeping up my throat. I was alone in this dark room, and the air felt suffocating. My heart pounded in my ears, every beat a loud reminder that I had no idea what was happening or why I was here. Damon's face flashed in my mind, his cold, calculating expression. He had always been a shadow in the background, a threat looming over everything I'd known. And now he had made his move. My mind raced. Roman, where was he? Was he even looking for me? Or had I become a pawn in his game, just like everyone else? The door creaked open and I froze. I didn't want to look, didn't want to see who was walking in. But my body betrayed me, my eyes snapping to the figure that stepped into the room. Evelyn. Her presence alone seemed to fill the space with a cold, sharp edge. The woman who had haunted my nightmares. The one who had claimed Roman as hers before I had even come into the picture. I had always known she was dangerous, but seeing her here, right in front of me, felt like the final piece of a twisted puzzle that I was too late to stop. She smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind of smile that made your skin crawl, the kind that told you everything you feared was coming true. Surprised to see me? She asked, her voice dripping with sweet venom. I didn't speak. Couldn't. There were no words for the raw, suffocating feeling that gripped me. She wasn't just here for me. She was here to break me. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time, she continued, her eyes dark with a kind of malice I couldn't ignore. You see, Scarlett, you were never meant to be anything but a tool. A way to destroy Roman. A way to ruin everything he's built. He never deserved you. You were always my revenge. The words hit me like a physical blow. My head spun, trying to process what she was saying, but the truth was too much. I tried to breathe, tried to steady myself, but it felt impossible. All this time, all the pain, all the lies, and now she was telling me that I had been a pawn. Tool. You don't believe me. Evelyn's voice was sharp, almost mocking. You think Roman really cared about you? That he actually loved you? She laughed, and the sound was hollow, cutting through me like a blade. No, Scarlett. You were his way to hurt me. To get back at me for everything I took from him. You were always meant to be his downfall. And now, you'll be the thing that destroys him once and for all. My chest tightened, every breath feeling more like a struggle than the last. I had been so foolish, so blind. I had let myself fall for him, for Roman, when all this time I had been nothing but a means to an end. His empire, his future, everything he had worked for, was on the line, and I was just another casualty in his path of destruction. The door opened again, and I jerked my head toward the sound, my breath catching in my throat. Roman stood in the doorway, his face pale, his jaw clenched tightly. His eyes locked on mine, and for a moment everything else faded away. I saw the storm raging inside him, the same rage that had pulled us together, the same rage that had nearly torn us apart. He stepped into the room, his steps slow, deliberate, as though he was walking toward his own death. "You're too late, Roman," Evelyn taunted, her voice cutting through the silence. "You'll never get her back. Not this time." Roman's gaze never left me, and there was something in his eyes, something that made my heart skip. He was here. He hadn't given up on me. He hadn't let them take me without a fight. "You're wrong," he said, his voice cold and unwavering. "I don't lose. Not to you, not to anyone." Evelyn's eyes flickered with a flicker of anger, but she didn't back down. "You don't understand, do you? You were always meant to fail. This was never about you or her. It was always about your empire. About destroying everything you love." Roman's jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists. "You can't take her from me, Evelyn. She's mine." The words hit me like a shock to my system. "It is mine." I couldn't decide if I felt comforted or trapped by his claim. All the lies, all the secrets. Could I really believe that now? That he was here for me? That this wasn't some twisted game he had played from the start? Evelyn smirked, her eyes glinting with malice. "You've always been the one who thought you were in control. But you're not. Not anymore." I watched, frozen in place, as Roman stepped toward me. Every movement he made seemed to hold a purpose, every step deliberate. He was dangerous, but there was something else there, too, something raw and vulnerable. The man I had thought I knew had never been so exposed. He was a fighter, but he was also a man who had everything to lose. "Roman," I whispered, the name escaping my lips before I could stop it. My heart twisted as I saw the flash of emotion in his eyes. He's not the man I thought he was, I thought. But he was here. For me. In this moment, that was all that mattered. He reached out and gripped my arms, his touch burning through me, grounding me in a way nothing else could. "I'm not letting you go," he said. His voice steady despite the chaos around us. And then, just like that, everything shattered. The world around us seemed to explode. I heard the screeching sound of metal, the sharp crack of gunfire that echoed through the room like a warning. Evelyn's laughter rang out, high-pitched and triumphant. "You really think you can have her, Roman?" she sneered. "I've been waiting for this moment. For so long. Now it's over." Roman turned toward the sound, his face hardening. I could see the gears turning in his mind, the wheels of his empire shifting into motion. But it was too late. Too late to stop whatever was coming next. My breath caught as the door flew open, and the shadows of men in dark suits poured into the room, their faces obscured by the darkness. I gasped as I realized what was happening. They're here to take me. Roman was fighting for control, fighting to protect me, but the situation had spiraled out of control faster than I could understand. The word hung in the air like an unspoken promise, a bitter joke. I had no idea who we were anymore. Was there even an us? Or had this all been one big lie? Before I could respond, the phone clicked. Someone else was on the line. I heard a strange, unfamiliar voice. A woman's voice, cold and confident. "Roman," the woman said, her tone smooth and clipped. "You need to come here. It's urgent." I felt my breath catch in my throat. Something about her voice sounded too familiar, too controlling. My stomach twisted as the words sunk in. "Who is that?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. Roman's voice was hurried, terse. "I have to go, Scarlett. I'll explain everything later." And with that, the call ended, leaving me in the silence of my apartment, the weight of his confession still heavy in my chest. Who was that woman? Chapter 9. I felt the panic rising in my chest as the door slammed behind me. The cold steel of the handcuffs bit into my wrists, the sharp metallic taste of fear creeping up my throat. I was alone in this dark room, and the air felt suffocating. My heart pounded in my ears, every beat a loud reminder that I had no idea what was happening or why I was here. Damon's face flashed in my mind, his cold, calculating expression. He had always been a shadow in the background, a threat looming over everything I'd known. And now he had made his move. My mind raced. Roman, where was he? Was he even looking for me? Or had I become a pawn in his game, just like everyone else? The door creaked open and I froze. I didn't want to look, didn't want to see who was walking in. But my body betrayed me, my eyes snapping to the figure that stepped into the room. Evelyn. Her presence alone seemed to fill the space with a cold, sharp edge. The woman who had haunted my nightmares. The one who had claimed Roman as hers before I had even come into the picture. I had always known she was dangerous, but seeing her here, right in front of me, felt like the final piece of a twisted puzzle that I was too late to stop. She smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the kind of smile that made your skin crawl, the kind that told you everything you feared was coming true. "Surprised to see me?" she asked, her voice dripping with sweet venom. I didn't speak. Couldn't. There were no words for the raw, suffocating feeling that gripped me. She wasn't just here for me. She was here to break me. "I've been waiting for this moment for a long time," she continued, her eyes dark with a kind of malice I couldn't ignore. "You see, Scarlett, you were never meant to be anything but a tool. A way to destroy Roman. A way to ruin everything he's built. He never deserved you. You were always my revenge." The words hit me like a physical blow. My head spun, trying to process what she was saying, but the truth was too much. I tried to breathe, tried to steady myself, but it felt impossible. All this time, all the pain, all the lies, and now she was telling me that I had been a pawn. Tool. "You don't believe me." Evelyn's voice was sharp, almost mocking. "You think Roman really cared about you? That he actually loved you?" She laughed, and the sound was hollow, cutting through me like a blade. "No, Scarlett. You were his way to hurt me, to get back at me for everything I took from him. You were always meant to be his downfall. And now, you'll be the thing that destroys him once and for all." My chest tightened, every breath feeling more like a struggle than the last. I had been so foolish, so blind. I had let myself fall for him, for Roman, when all this time I had been nothing but a means to an end. His empire, his future, everything he had worked for, was on the line, and I was just another casualty in his path of destruction. The door opened again, and I jerked my head toward the sound, my breath catching in my throat. Roman stood in the doorway, his face pale, his jaw clenched tightly. His eyes locked on mine, and for a moment everything else faded away. I saw the storm raging inside him, The same rage that had pulled us together, the same rage that had nearly torn us apart. He stepped into the room, his steps slow, deliberate, as though he was walking toward his own death. "You're too late, Roman," Evelyn taunted, her voice cutting through the silence. "You'll never get her back. Not this time." Roman's gaze never left me, and there was something in his eyes, something that made my heart skip. He was here. He hadn't given up on me. He hadn't let them take me without a fight. "You're wrong," he said, his voice cold and unwavering. "I don't lose. Not to you, not to anyone." Evelyn's eyes flickered with a flicker of anger, but she didn't back down. "You don't understand, do you? You were always meant to fail. This was never about you or her. It was always about your empire. About destroying everything you love." Roman's jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists. "You can't take her from me, Evelyn. She's mine." The words hit me like a shock to my system. "It is mine." I couldn't decide if I felt comforted or trapped by his claim. All the lies, all the secrets. Could I really believe that now? That he was here for me? That this wasn't some twisted game he had played from the start? Evelyn smirked, her eyes glinting with malice. "You've always been the one who thought you were in control. But you're not. Not anymore." I watched, frozen in place, as Roman stepped toward me. Every movement he made seemed to hold a purpose, every step deliberate. He was dangerous, but there was something else there, too, something raw and vulnerable. The man I had thought I knew had never been so exposed. He was a fighter, but he was also a man who had everything to lose. "Roman," I whispered, the name escaping my lips before I could stop it. My heart twisted as I saw the flash of emotion in his eyes. He's not the man I thought he was, I thought. But he was here. For me. In this moment, that was all that mattered. He reached out and gripped my arms, his touch burning through me, grounding me in a way nothing else could. "I'm not letting you go," he said. His voice steady despite the chaos around us. And then, just like that, everything shattered. The world around us seemed to explode. I heard the screeching sound of metal, the sharp crack of gunfire that echoed through the room like a warning. Evelyn's laughter rang out, high-pitched and triumphant. "You really think you can have her, Roman?" she sneered. "I've been waiting for this moment. For so long. Now it's over." Roman turned toward the sound, his face hardening. I could see the gears turning in his mind, the wheels of his empire shifting into motion. But it was too late. Too late to stop whatever was coming next. My breath caught as the door flew open, and the shadows of men in dark suits poured into the room, their faces obscured by the darkness. I gasped as I realized what was happening. "They're here to take me." Roman was fighting for control, fighting to protect me, but the situation had spiraled out of control faster than I could understand. I leaned forward, my lips meeting his in a kiss that was everything. Passionate, desperate, filled with all the things we had been too afraid to say. And in that kiss I knew that this was where I belonged. With him. Always with him. Epilogue. A stunning time jump. 2 years later. The house was quiet. Too quiet. But the silence didn't feel like it used to. It didn't feel cold or distant. Felt comfortable. Felt like home. I was standing in the kitchen, preparing breakfast, my mind wandering as I chopped vegetables. I couldn't believe how much my life had changed. 2 years ago, I had been running from a man I thought I could never trust. Now, I was living a life I had never dared to dream of. The sound of footsteps behind me made me smile before I even turned around. Roman's presence was like a shadow I couldn't escape, and didn't want to. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his lips brushing my ear as he pressed his body into mine. "You're early," I teased, feeling his familiar warmth as his hands slid down to my stomach. "I couldn't wait to see you," he whispered, his voice low and filled with something I couldn't quite describe. "And I couldn't wait to see our little girl." I closed my eyes, leaning back into him as his hand gently caressed my swollen belly. The love and adoration in his touch made my heart swell. He was different now. He was no longer the man who had played games with my heart. He was the man who had made me his. And I was his, completely, irrevocably. Roman bent down and kissed my neck, his lips warm and tender. "You're all mine, Scarlett. Always." I turned in his arms, looking up at him. His eyes, darker than they had ever been, were filled with a kind of love that made everything else fade away. He was a changed man, a man who had proven himself to me in ways I never thought possible. He was a father now, a husband, and I could see the way he adored our daughter already. "I'm yours," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "And I always will be." Roman smiled, a slow, satisfied smile that made my heart skip. He was everything I needed. He was everything I had ever wanted. And as he kissed me softly, the world outside no longer mattered. It was just us. Together. Forever. If you enjoyed this Billionaire Romance audiobook, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new story. Your support means the world. See you in the next one. Roman smiled, a slow, satisfied smile that made my heart skip. He was everything I needed. He was everything I had ever wanted. And as he kissed me softly, the world outside no longer mattered. It was just us. Together. Forever. If you enjoyed this Billionaire Romance audiobook, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting new story. Your support means the world. See you in the next one.